All right, take five. Aloha and welcome back. It's a good thing you guys don't have to sit with me through all that. So today we are going to talk about Jackie Robinson was a DEI hire. We must take our language back from Republicans. This is by Dr. Omekonga Dibinga. So to me, the left needs to take their language back from the right, not just Republicans. Democrats, right-wing parties, center-right, call themselves left. They're lying. They're breaking the language. Like one easy thing is how Republicans want to call us thugs and DEI and woke to mean it's the new N word, right? But even before that, the right has changed feudalism into monarchy, into oligarchy, into capitalism. It's all the same system. They're just changing words, having the few rule the many with money or a moneyed system. So, why do we need DEI or why do we not need DEI? Let's find out why.
What's up, upstanders? Dr. O here, and
What up,
people
Dr.
have a
O?
lot of conversations about what are we going to do to take back this? What's the Democratic plan, or what's the plan for people
And see, there
in
you go
America?
again, the Democratic plan. The Democrats are a corporate party. Their plan is to keep playing with the Republicans and keep it the same, that they run us, that they rule us, that Nancy Pelosi keeps her chocolate ice cream while we sit in bread lines.
So on and so forth to fight back and stuff. And one of the things that's extremely important is that we have to take control back of narrative and language.
Yes.
As it's often been said in politics, when you're using the language of your opponent, they are winning. You could have the best arguments ever, but if you're using their language, they are winning. And one of the challenges that we have, particularly as it relates to conversations around critical race theory, diversity education, diversity, equity, and inclusion, even Black Lives Matter, or terms that they've deemed useless, like woke, which is a term I've never used, never liked in the first place. People are debating over a narrative that people like Trump and DeSantis and these Republicans have created that was never true in the first place. And so what happens is you even have people who are not who may be in more liberal, quote unquote, progressive or democratic spaces arguing over things using the language of the Republicans. Case in point, this I heard Mike Barnacle talking about Jackie Robinson wasn't a DEI hire; he was an American hero.
He was definitely a DEI hire. And they hired him because he could stay calm and be called the N word all the time and be spat at and all that stuff. He was a total DEI hire, but we're all DEI hires, if right? Because this place was made for to get away from the king, or was it to make a whole bunch of little kings on plantations? That's again the right changing words, right? Instead of having little serfdoms or kingdoms back in England, they said they want to get away from the king, and here they just made little plantations, which are basically little kingdoms. You got a king as queen, and then work your way down with the whippers and the guys with the guns on horses, and then the slaves and all that. So those were the serfs, right? But they could beat their serfs now. So it was slavery a little bit different, but still the same. They were just still kings that could do what they want. In England, the king could behead or do whatever he wanted to the people. So really, exactly the same. They just changed the words so that they could be the ones at the top, but they were the losers in England, right? They were well, actually they probably weren't, right? Because they could afford to get on the ships and get here. They were probably just the way down the line of the wouldn't be king, would only be the low aristocracy, so they could come over here and start their own little kingdoms, but they wanted to seem better, so they call it plantations and stuff. They just changed the words. The right does that so that they can keep their power as long as they can. They're like, oh, you don't like capitalism no more? We're going to call it moneyism now. And people are going to go, oh, okay, that'll be better. But just change the words, keep the same system, the few running the many.
Both two things can be true. Jackie Robinson was a diversity hire. Now, of course, he was brought into the to baseball because of the potential money that people saw from the Negro leagues and how that could translate into baseball. So that was all about economics and the like. But here's the thing: when Dr. King talked about in his letter from a Birmingham jail about how white liberals could be a bigger problem than the white racists that people are fighting. You see, a lot of white people in liberal spaces have issues with DEI as well.
And that's a little bit odd that he would bring that up because I'm pretty sure he normally pushes the Democratic Party a lot. Like he started talking with the Democratic Party, but then went off a little bit. But yeah, so those are the ones. that Malcolm X and Martin Luther King warned us about is the Democrats, the liberals who act like they're our friends, the wolves who, when they growl at us, they look like they're, or the foxes that look like when they're growling at us, they're smiling. The Democrat or the Republicans are the wolves. We know they're growling at us. We know they want to eat us. The Democrats pretend, and there's so many people who back them that we're gonna get eaten by the foxes instead of the wolves now.
Well, because they don't fully understand what it means and they're against what they think it means in the first place. Now, some of them, if they actually knew what it means, will still be against it, but that's a conversation for another day.
Right.
This is my point. Jackie Robinson, like many other baseball players, was qualified to play in the majors, but racism kept him out. Jackie Robinson,
And this
like
is
many.
true with so many jobs. Like, you ever see that where the black ladies were the not astronauts, but they worked in NASA, and then they got those shorts right now. And I never even watched the whole movie, but I see this short all the time where the black lady comes back and he's like, "Where have you been?" She said, "I had to use the restroom." And he's like, "For an hour or something like that, or where do you go every day?" And she said, I have to use the restroom." And he's like, "For an hour or 2 hours a day, something like that." And she's like, "Well, I can't use the restroom in this building. It's an all-white restroom. I have to walk across campus, this, that, and the other. And it takes me a long time to get there because I can't drive because I'm not allowed to drive on campus either because it's all-white driving or something like that, right, right?" And he's like, he gets mad and he goes and tears the all-white sign off the restroom and stuff. But DEI is what America is. It's like, or it's anti-DEI. It's a white man's country, but DEI is letting other people have opportunity. And if we take away all the DEI, it's just going to become the white man's country again. We're going to go back to kingdoms, serfdoms, plantations, whatever you want to call it.
Many other black people who served in the military before him had the talent, had the skills, but racism and segregation and discrimination kept them out. It wasn't that they were not skilled. It wasn't that they were not qualified. Racism said you could not be in those spaces. Part of diversity, equity, and inclusion, when you integrate a community, that's a DEI program. That's a DEI idea. When you desegregate the military, that's a diversity, equity, and inclusion program. There was never conversations about.
And so the thing is, we wouldn't need DEI if it wasn't segregated in the first place. Like the reverseness of DEI or whatever you want to call it at the beginning of the country when it was white people only, white men only, and then whatever. Like, how do you have a country that is built for white people, made for only white people for 200, 250 years, or even before the country was started, right? Like when it was still moving out to the wilderness and whatnot for like 400 years. You have to have something to say that we're going to equalize things. Or when you cut DEI, you're just going to fire all the people who aren't white. Trump.
Well, we're going to let black people in, Asian people in, Latino people in of the lowest quality standards just so we can have some good numbers. That's not what happens with
Right.
diversity, equity, and inclusion. But that's the perception out there that people took, random bro Pookie from the streets and made him a CEO at PepsiCo or something like that. And so you basically, that's when you have people who are quote unquote liberal, progressive, and all of that saying, well, this isn't DEI. This is Jackie Robinson's a hero. No,
And then
that's
again, he's breaking words. Liberal, progressive. Opposite ends of the spectrum. Liberals are right wing, progressives are left wing. So the right has broken words well enough that people even talking about trying to fix the broken words are breaking the words or using the broken words that the right has broken. So yes, again, liberal, progressive, not at all the same thing. And so that when I first started on my political journey, I called myself a liberal. I thought liberals were on the left. I was like, oh, well, I'm liberal with my ketchup. I want to be liberal with society, right? Nah, very different things.
isn't DEI. This is Jackie Robinson's a hero. No, that's not how it works. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is about giving people an
Oh,
opportunity
that
where
could
the
be.
opportunities did not exist. Now, to be clear, are there some young people who may get into college and may not have the strongest scores and so on and so forth? Yes, that is true, but that happens across the board, across every racial group. That also happens with legacy admissions
I was about to
where the
say, yeah,
kids.
that happened the most before DEI. Only a certain group was allowed to go, so the best of all other groups couldn't go, and the worst of that group got to go. So that's way worse than having opportunity for other people.
group that also happens with legacy admissions, where the kids of people who wrote a nice check to the university or whose parents are prominent and went there also get in, who also struggle in schools. But that's why many universities have pre-college programs. Georgetown University, where I graduated from, had a program called Community Scholars, where students would come in during the summertime before classes started. Some was to get additional academic support if the school they got in from was not the strongest, but for others it was just an opportunity to get acclimated to the college campus before everybody else got there.
You no longer have to go to Harvard to make.
What is wrong with that? And as I said when I was on Dr. Phil, no matter what test you take to get in, you got to take the same test to get out. No matter what opportunity, whose parent wrote the check for and whose name's on the building you got to get in, you got to take the same test to get out. My wife and I are graduates of Boston Latin School, oldest public school in the country, founded in 1635, older than Harvard University. Lots of, basically is a very high functioning public school. It has been for years. It rivals many private schools, probably more than, academically rigorous than many private schools that are out there. My wife, she graduated as a member of the National Honor Society, AP, honors classes, all of that. Was class secretary and the like. And, went to Georgetown, one of her top choices, and did the Community Scholars Program. Didn't need that for the academics. It was, hey, come get acclimated to the university before you start classes. And so if we want to be serious about fighting back this ignorance and hatred that's out there, we have to reclaim the language. I will never argue, I will never cede what the definition of diversity, equity, and inclusion means to those guys who basically use it as a slur. DEI hire, so on and so forth. And the fact of the matter is that most of Trump's cabinet are DEI hires. What does Linda McMahon know about the Department of Education? What does Pete Hegseth know about the Department of Defense? This is a man who fired somebody in CQ Brown, black member, head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and put in somebody less qualified. I believe CQ Brown, General Brown's 4-star, put in a 3-star general with limited experience. Head of the FBI, Kash Patel, and his deputy. Run down the list. Look at these individuals. These are and most of them are white males. Obviously, some of the ones I mentioned are not, but the real qualification for them is that they're white males. And I wouldn't even say white heterosexual males, because you still got Peter Thiel up in there doing his thing. So it's about power. What skills does Elon Musk bring to the table as it relates to running government? So even when I heard, Mara Gay, on MSNBC talking about, I'm tired of people calling it DEI. These are attacks on civil rights and civil liberties. Yes, that is true. But she was saying, DEI is a program. DEI is a program that you do at your job that you may not really like. No, that is a DEI program. But there's a difference between DEI program and DEI in general, the idea of it. So if we're talking about creating community where everybody can be celebrated and not tolerated, we have to take control back of this language. We have to take control back of this narrative. Remember when we had that tragic plane crash and helicopter crash over the Potomac, here in the D.C. area, and before people even knew anything, before people even knew anybody who was on board, Trump and all of these guys threw out DEI. Just DEI, DEI, DEI. And then it turns out they were all white, and I believe they were all white men. There was one white woman who was one of the pilots training on the helicopter, and her family had to wait days before they released her name so they can gather all of the stories and all of the affirmations from her former colleagues and staff and supervisors to show how qualified she was, because they knew that she was going to be a DEI hire person as a woman, and she was going to be blamed.
She's a DEI hire person as a woman. Women weren't allowed to do anything in the original America. DEI is just getting away from only white men being able to do stuff. Everybody's a DEI hire. If we get rid of DEI, we go back to 1950s?
The way that these Republican folks and I don't call them the right because they're wrong, the way that these people frame things like critical race theory, like Black Lives Matter, like...
Well, saying I don't call them the right because they're wrong is also going to be breaking words. They're just right-wing. This is what it is. Right versus left, whatever you want to call it, that's what it is. So they are on the right.
The DEI is absolutely wrong. They are not the creators of the terms, and they'll say things like DEI must die, and they'll change it to whatever they change it to on their websites and the like. They didn't come up with those terms, And so all y'all who are out there who do work like I do in DEI spaces, you got to reclaim the word. All of y'all who aren't in these spaces, but
You said you didn't like the word woke. Woke is, there's nothing wrong with woke either. You don't want to be awake. You don't want to be woke to what's happening. You want to be asleep.
know what it means, got to reclaim the word. All of y'all who know that DEI is also
But see,
including.
that's what I say with communism, socialism, and leftism. We need to show people what the left really is about. These like right wing Democrats do not represent the left. We need more people out there representing the Green Party, DSA, PSL, just the people in general, talking about, yes, we are left wing, we are communists, we are socialists, and we're here just to help people. We're not sitting here trying to get money. Like, socialists don't want money. We just want people to have access to goods and stuff. We don't even want money to be around. We'd rather just have access to things.
Things like, making sure that kids with disabilities are getting the help that they need in education in their schools. That's also part of DEI. Those who are making sure that the elderly are not just thrown out to the wolves as relates to Social Security. That's about DEI as well, because it's about inclusivity.
Can't be inclusive.
It's about inclusivity. It's about making sure that people who may need help getting better access to things actually get the access that they need.
Only the strong survive, my dude.
Now with Jackie Robinson, if we had a country that was actually built on meritocracy, which it never was, would it need any DEI programs for the military, for baseball, for anything else?
And so I stopped watching the NFL with Kaepernick. When Kaepernick started kneeling, and then the NFL just basically proved itself to be totally racist, I just couldn't watch no more. And so everybody watches the NFL. And now I see games here and there, and my lady likes the 49ers, so I think she watched the Super Bowl is what I, and so both the quarterbacks in the Super Bowl are black. I don't even remember their names. Jalen Hurts, I think, was one of them. But then they were talking about the black quarterbacks in the league, and I think like 10 or 12 quarterbacks are black now, and there's a lot of backups, and there's a lot of black quarterbacks. And when I was young, there were no black quarterbacks. They said black people weren't smart enough to play quarterback. I wanted to play quarterback, and even in my skin complexion, they told me I wasn't smart enough to play quarterback. Like my literal Pee-wee, my literal Pee-wee coaches told me, "Oh, you're not smart enough to play quarterback." And at the time, I'm just like, "All right, whatever." Like, I didn't know any better. I just thought that was the coach, and my dad told me to listen to coaches, which I'm not blaming my dad or not. But just, you listen to your coach, right? And I'm a little kid. They said, "Oh, you're not smart enough. You go play running back." I'm like, "All right, cool." And so I always wanted to play quarterback. And in my first high school, I was the second black quarterback ever to play there. And they were like, "Oh, we never thought there'd be a black quarterback here, what. And then my second high school, I was also the second black quarterback ever to play there. And they, like in the crowd, they were talking, they said that they never thought they'd see a black quarterback there just because the coaches were old school and all that. And my second high school was a straight just passing offense, so they didn't think that black people could pass back then, right? And so I just find it funny that anybody would try to call the United States a meritocracy. Even in the most meritocratic places like pro sports, it's still not. They still don't want black people to get to the top of the cream, that you can't be the quarterback. But now, as one does it, as there was a Doug Williams, and then a Warren Moon, and then a Randall Cunningham, and then especially a Michael Vick opened it up to where and see, and even that, I have qualms with that. Now they just put their best athlete at quarterback and let him run around, but don't teach him how to drop back and do 3-step passes and stuff, not as much. They should teach the black kids how to play quarterback and let them run when they need to. That's getting a little bit off point, but DEI.
But the fact that it matters that this country was built on white maleness, and it was built on white maleness that excluded everybody else. Their qualifications be damned.
Exactly.
And so Jackie Robinson is an American hero, but he is a product of DEI programs. When you integrate something, that's a DEI program, whether you like it or not. It's a program to diversify. It's a program, equity, helping somebody get access to something they didn't have access to before so they can get to a particular goal. Inclusion. Now,
so again, we wouldn't need this if the people didn't start the country this way, the way they started it.
Dr. King said that true integration, which is not part of the term DEI, is about the marriage and the sharing of power, resources, and responsibility. That hasn't fully happened in any level in this country, in corporate spaces, education spaces, and the like.
Right.
So my call to everybody, and I talk about
when you describe it like that, true integration is the integration of resources and power. that that's amazing. I never really heard it quite said like that. And so, are we truly integrated as a society, as a people? Not at all.
A lot of this. I have a whole chapter on racialized language in my book here, Lies About Black People, which I strongly encourage you to get wherever you get your books, audiobooks as well. Do not give in on language. When they say DEI, make them say diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Don't give in on the language. And like he gave in a little bit. He won't use the word right because they're wrong. He doesn't like the word woke. Don't give in on any of the language. Own it all. If you're a left winger, be a left winger and use the word right wing. And talk, if you don't like to say the right because it sounds like they're correct, say the right wing. Just add the word to it. Don't leave wing off. Yes, they're right wing. And then they don't sound right. They sound right wing, and you don't have to say, I'm not going to say it, they're wrong. But own the words, all of them.
Make them say specifically which part they are against, the diversity, the equity, or the inclusion, and make them say why. And then when they give out their ignorance and their nonsense on this, actually challenge them with the members of the Trump administration who don't have the skills that they need to lead, starting with the president himself. Have that conversation.
I don't think that'll work because they think the president's a god, right? And they think everybody that, maybe not a god, but like a king or whatever, they think he's the man. He's what they say, I'm him. They think he's him. So anybody he picks, they're on board with. So I don't know if that's really going to work as much, but
speak on it. Take back your language. Take back our language. Stop using Republican narratives to frame the story and build your argument.
Republican and Democratic narratives. Stop using right-wing narratives. Republicans are just the furthest right. Democrats are almost just as far right because they play the game with the Republicans to make society how it is. They want to keep it like this.
From there, we are the educators. When I say
but
we,
see, that's one of the biggest problems. I'm sorry that I cut it off so much. Is that we give the Democrats a pass. We're so focused on the Republicans that people go to the Democrats thinking that they're going to do something and help something, and then they pass the crime bill. And then they pass Obamacare where they fine poor people. And then Joe Biden cuts the tax cuts for child and doubles child poverty or puts it up by 30% or something like that. I forget exactly what it was, but then they come in and they do these things, the Democrats, the right-wing Democrats.
People like me who are professors, of course, I'm just talking about those who know the history, those who can actually talk about Derek Bell and Kimberly Crenshaw when it comes to things like critical race theory and Delgado and the other founders of it. Those of us who understand that critical race theory isn't even taught in K-12 schools and isn't even taught in college except for as a law school graduate course.
They had to Google 40 acres and a mule on the Super Bowl. 40 acres and a mule was it was the most Googled thing for like a couple hours or a day or something like that. They are not teaching critical race theory. They're not teaching critical thinking. 40 acres and a mule. Everyone knew. Jesus, it's so crazy.
Of course. We got to share that. We got to put that out there. We got to put an end to these trigger words that are used to get people on our side who would normally be on our side if they didn't fall for that Republican nonsense.
Right.
So look it up.
See, when you do stuff like this, so he's kind of breaking words a little bit because, like I said, I think he backs the Democrats, which I'm pretty sure he does now the way he's talking. So he's acting like the Democrats are different. He just keeps talking about the Republicans. They're both right wing. The duopoly, if he said the duopoly, great. But Republicans and Democrats, both right wing, and he's helping to break words now too because he's leaving the Democrats out of this and going to make them seem like they're better, which they're not. And then so now they're going to be the left, which they're right wing, and you're breaking what the left is.
Read it up, search it up, whatever you want to say.
Read it up, yep.
But stop using their language as you frame your arguments. Use the language as it's meant to be, and take back the language of diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as now people often say DEIA, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and accessibility, because that also talks about inclusion, relating to people who have physical challenges and other maybe mental challenges, mental illness, and so on and so forth. Some have also added belonging. Some have also added justice. Whatever it is, the roots are the same. The roots are the same. Diversity, the state of being different, there's nothing wrong with that. That's what this country was built on. So get out there, claim it, name it, own it. And don't for a second use the way they define our terminology in the arguments that you're making in support or against DEI. But hopefully the goal is in support of it. Look forward to your thoughts. Let me know what you think in the chat. Holla at your boy. I want to hear your comments.
Same here. I look forward to your thoughts. Holla at me in the chat. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. So what do you guys think? I think he didn't take it quite far enough. I think he's including the Democrats as being using words correctly, which they don't. They're still on the right, beating dead horses over here. You know how I feel about the Democrats. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. America without DEI would be only for one person or one group of people. It was built for white males to be kings of their plantation owners. That sounds a lot nicer. They own a plantation, right? But they were kings. They got to do whatever they wanted, and they just wanted to get away from the king of them that was the king over them, so they could all have their own little kingdom. So yeah, without DEI, we're going back to plantation. So even if I was just an all white male, I'd rather be a little more equal. I don't want to be whipping people. I don't want slaves. I don't want none of that. It's all bad. And so I know I've been a little slower, but stick with me, guys. Just keep coming back to Across the Spectrum.